We love experimentation. It's a great way for us to learn as a company and as a culture. And when those experiments yield innovations that we think are right for us, for our team, for our consumer, we go after them.
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. My guest today is Brett Craig. Brett is the Executive Vice President and Chief Information Officer of Target, a retailer that earns in excess of $109 billion in annual revenue. Brett has been in his role for a bit more than 2 years out of the 16 and a half years that he's been at Target. He leads the strategic direction and management of the enterprise technology systems that elevate Target's guest and team member experience. And in his role, Brett's responsible for the company's technology roadmap and oversees Target's global product engineering, infrastructure, cybersecurity, data sciences, and architecture teams. Brett's held a diverse array of roles inside and outside of Target, including in merchandising and in finance, bringing an interesting breadth of insight and experience to his role as CIO. Brett, welcome to Technovation. It's great to speak with you today.
Thanks, Peter. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
I've been looking forward to it as well. Thank you. Well, Brett, you are the Chief Information Officer of Target, a role that you've had for a little more than 2 years now. And I wonder if you could, most people who would be listening to this or watching this will certainly be familiar with Target's business, but great to hear from an executive like you, a description of the business as it stands today. Would you provide that, please?
Sure. So Target is a US-based mass retailer. We serve over 100 million consumers across 5 broad product lines, ranging from essentials and food to beauty and apparel and home goods. So a broad array. We're really proud of our commitment to our team and our communities. It's been a long-standing legacy for the 62 years that we've been operating under the Target banner. And we are excited to just be out there and telling a little bit of our story about the way that we can bring joy to all families. And so it's a great opportunity to share a little bit with you today on that, Peter.
I'm looking forward to that, Brett. Thank you. And I'd love to also understand a little bit more about your role as Chief Information Officer. Would you please describe your purview?
Sure. I'll take a step back. I've been at Target for 16 years. I've had a long tenure at Target in a variety of roles. I've spent most of my career in technology roles of all flavors, including when I first joined Target. And throughout my tenure here, I've had a chance to also spend some time in merchandising, where I led some of our core capabilities around pricing and promotions, around the presentation of our goods. And I also had a chance to lead our digital platform for a brief stint before coming to the CIO role. In this chair, I have the privilege of working across the executive leadership team on making sure that we bring the best technology capabilities to bear in service of our business. We're a retail company with an exceptional technology team. And so we want to ensure that we continue to bring the best capabilities forward as technology is playing a bigger and bigger part in the retail industry, and certainly a Target than it ever has. And it's been really fun to be part of that journey here at Target.
I want to talk to you a little bit about that diversity, if you don't mind. As you noted, you've had a number of technology roles, but also, as you noted, you had a merchandising role, and that provided some breadth, perhaps, to the depth of experiences you've had from a technology perspective. You also had a finance role prior to this at the Hartford, dating back to 2008. Can you talk a bit about how the breadth of your experiences, especially some of those outside of the traditional technology roles, have helped you as a chief information officer?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I would say the roles outside of tech were some of my most formative roles in helping me prepare for the CIO role. And so prior, when I was in a finance role, that gave me a lot of exposure to the customers, the internal customers in which I was serving when I was leading the technology team for that organization. And it also helped me just grow a lot more appreciation for kind of the underpinning of the financial structure of that business. So I'd say it really opened the aperture broadly for me. It also gave me a hunger to continue to make sure I'm learning as much about the day in and day out operations of the business as I am about the advancements in technology. I'm a very curious person. From the time I was quite young until today, I'd love to take things apart and put them back together to see how they work. And so I found my calling as a technologist pretty early on, but the experiences that I gained along the way have made me better. And so when I took the role in merchandising a number of years ago, that was part of an intentional plan to say if I wanted ever achieve a C-suite opportunity at Target, I need to make sure that I really understand the core of a retail operation. And there's no better place to learn about that than in the merchandising function. And so that stint was really important for me to not only get to know about the underpinnings of how the business works day in and day out, but also make really important relationships and connections beyond the casual, say hi in the hallway, to actually a deeper relationship with the leaders of merchandising, the leaders of our planning and supply chain functions, all of which have such an important role in influencing our technology agenda. So I grew tremendously in that, and it certainly helped me prepare to be a more effective leader as a technologist who sits at the C-suite table and has a vote in all things related to our strategy and the choices that we make as a business. So it was great, great preparation, and I think made me a better technologist.
That's fantastic. Well, as you think about the future of Target, would love to talk to you a bit about the role that technology is
Yeah.
playing. I mean, this is an organization that has for quite some time been a major strategic contributor to Target. And of course, you have been a part of that even prior to your role as Chief Information Officer. But as you sit here today, talk a bit about what excites you about the next chapter of technology at Target.
I'll take a quick step back and then build into that, because technology has always been important to Target. Technology first kind of found its footing in really back office functions, and I'm talking decades ago. And it played an important role, but it was kind of not really well known. And then it evolved into really what we called kind of automating the easy, using technology to find ways to take the repetitiveness out of some of the functions that we drive some more efficiency. And that had drove a lot of value, and it created a bit more awareness of the role of technology. Where we are today, where technology is pervasive in everything that we do. In some cases, it's a supporting function. In some cases, it's a defining function in the work that we do. And it's increasingly much more about the human technology relationship and that interface. And so we continue to run back office functions. We continue to look for automating the easy and maybe not so easy functions today, but really trying to becoming even more experiential in the way we employ technology to drive a great experience for our team, for our guests, and really kind of bring it to bear, because it is such an important part of how consumers, how people communicate with each other. It's how they interact with a brand like Target. And it also is how we empower our team to get out there and be the best they can possibly be in service of our business and our guests.
Yeah, really fascinating. And I'd love to maybe double click on this experiential aspect that you talked
Yeah,
about, as you noted for your team as well as for guests. How do
sure.
you think a bit about, and even how do you engage with internal constituents as well as external ones to identify ways of improving that experience for each of those?
Well, there's lots of different inputs to that equation, as you might imagine. Some of them are solicited, some of them are just volunteered to us, in terms of how we can continue to enrich the experience. We I'll start with a prioritization process, because I think that's really important, because there's a really an infinite number of things you could do, but we try to focus on what we should do. And so our planning process starts with establishing a clear set of enterprise priorities that we align our resources against. And in all cases, technology has a role. In some cases, it has an outsized role in delivering against that. So within those big strategic umbrellas that help us propel the growth agenda for Target, we want to make sure that we're looking at the way that we're delivering value. And value certainly comes in sales and profits, but it also comes in traffic, it comes in NPS scores, it comes in a lot of the anecdotes that we hear from our team and from our guests. So really making sure that we're looking at the portfolio of work that we do, leveraging the experts that we have around Target, from our user experience team, which is just a fabulous set of creative designers that help take really good engineered solutions and make them super consumable, to also our ongoing interaction with our guests, using panels, using our insights capabilities to listen to our guests. Every week we're out in the field listening to our guests, listening to our store teams talk about our guests, and using that as inputs to help shape the way we want to create the experiences that we can say are uniquely Targets, that are consistent with our brand and represent who we are as a community and as a company.
What an advantage you have in the business that you're in, that you can have such deep interactions with guests, and I hasten to add, no doubt, are guests yourselves, that you experience all that Target does, and no doubt have your own opinions as to what's working well or what could be improved.
We do, and that's an important point. Is we are the benefactor of receiving such great perspective from so many different areas, and so bringing that together, and then being able to turn that around in today's environment. We operate in a pretty agile at scale on a pretty agile approach. So we're able to iterate quickly on the ideas that come in, often lead to an experiment. We love experimentation. It's a great way for us to learn as a company and as a culture. And when those experiments yield innovations that we think are right for us, for our team, for our consumer, we go after them. And those are the ones that we put into motion. And so that cycle is, well, it's perpetual for sure, because there's always new things to do, especially when you look at, the retail industry is as dynamic as I've ever seen it. And the advancement in technology are by far the fastest I've ever seen in my career. And so sitting at the intersection of retail and technology puts me in the fun seat. And I mean that very sincerely. It is so fun to see all these different things that are coming at you, the possibilities, and then being able to sift through them with this exceptional team that I get to work with and say, what are the experiments that are yielding something that we believe is value, so we can actually go pursue that opportunity, and then where it makes sense, aligns with our strategic priorities, put that to work for us. That is a day in the life, and it's very fun.
That's fascinating. It brings up a number of things that I'd like to raise with you. One of
Sure.
which I know is a philosophy you have of progress over perfection, and,
Yeah.
and perhaps that is related to what you noted of the pace of change, how fast it is, and so the necessity to continue to make some progress. But I'd love to have you describe what you mean by that and how it manifests itself and how the team operates.
Yeah. So Peter, you've worked in and around the IT industry for a while as well, and you may recall, I certainly recall, a time where we were always fighting to, effectively resource a project or a program. And in order to do that, you really had to put together your 18 to 24-month plan. You had to have very explicit, this is what we're going to deliver when, here's the milestones, here's the toll gates, here's exactly what that outcome is going to be. And for me to sit here today and tell you exactly what we're going to deliver in 24 months would be inaccurate. It would be well intended, but it would be inaccurate for sure. And so, we've moved beyond that into a level of higher engagement with all of our community stakeholders. So the business line owners, the frontline leaders in the organization, the guests, the other constituents that we have, and so the ability to move fast and iterate and continue to make progress against a really good idea is tremendously valuable. And I think as we've all grown our adoption of technology in our personal lives, um, that has actually helped us move with the expectation around, if it's better than it was yesterday, that's good enough, versus it has to be perfect or we're not going to sign up for it. I think we've moved beyond that, driven by a lot of external forces, and we've applied that and leveraged that certainly in the way we approach technology in terms of continuing to make progress against really good ideas and ensuring that we're getting value along the way, versus that big bang, which in almost all cases never really fully materialized. And those days are mostly behind us, at least in the world of software development. So that's been a little bit of the evolution, and it's been embraced really broadly here as well. So it's become our norm for working.
How encouraging. That's really interesting. And this ability to move fast, iterate, as you described it, clearly, of course, is the pathway to innovation, the necessity
Yeah,
to do that in order to innovate. And I want to talk a little bit about the culture of innovation that you're fostering and some of the methods that you've used in
yeah,
order to ensure that a broad part of the organization is thinking about the new and the art of the possible. Can you talk
yeah.
about some of the methods that you've used to foster innovation, please?
I'll start with just more of the mindset around the importance of continuous learning, staying curious, and embracing experimentation. That you don't have to sit in technology for those things to still be very, very important. So wherever you sit, we really want to encourage that type of a mindset, because a good idea can come from anywhere. Within technology, we certainly encourage that in the culture and in the behaviors of our team, but we do put a little programming around it as well. And so one of the things that we do on a quarterly basis, we host a demo day. A demo day is where our technologists get to basically science fair-esque showcase what they're working on. And in some cases, these are brand new ideas, but in many cases, they're ideas that have already started down their journey and they're at a different level of maturity than the last time we saw them. So you get to see progress against the idea. You get to see new learnings along the way. We do this at both of our headquarters locations. So here in the US, as well as in Bengaluru, in India, where we have a portion of our team. We run these demo days and they are a celebration of learning. It is such an important event. It gives the technologists the stage to show off their work, but they spend a lot of time networking, going around the different booths and listening and learning from others. And the makeup of the audience now is heavily represented from leaders across all functions and people across all functions in our business. So that is a great way to really promote a little bit of the exceptional work that our team does, but also build engagement and awareness. We do other things like hackathons. Those can spin up on a minute's notice, where a team will just say, "We got an idea. We're gonna go find a space to go pursue it." Um, we also have embraced for years now within tech 50 days of learning, which means that every technologist is granted 50 days every year to go pursue an idea or a thread, however they choose to spend it. So it's essentially a day a week that doesn't have to be taken one day a week. It can be taken a week here or whatever, however they want to do it. But 50 days of reinvestment in themselves to figure out, something they want to figure out. It can be a personal passion, it can be a work thing, but it's a chance for them to continue to feed that curiosity, to help continue to, explore that learning, which is never been more important than it is today with the pace of change that we're seeing both in retail and in technology. So we're really proud to stand strongly behind 50 days of learning, and encouraging our teams to just go out and take full advantage of it. And I will tell you that some of the teams have organized with colleagues of theirs to say, we have an idea. We're just going to go work in somebody's basement for a few days or a garage for a few days. And they bring back something that ends up at a demo day and might end up in production. We've seen some great outcomes, and other outcomes which are equally great are somebody got to figure out how to do something, and now they're publishing YouTube videos on how to solve this particular problem, or putting something out on one of the other blogs, etc. So there's a lot of goodness that comes from that, but it helps them feel empowered and appreciated as the technologist, and they're learning along the way, which makes us better.
Interesting topics you raised there. Thank you so much for sharing some of the methods that you've
Yeah,
used to foster that learning culture. Well, among the topics that certainly represents a lot of heat today and a lot of source of potential innovation is generative artificial intelligence.
yeah,
And I know you see it as an enabler for the team and for guests as well. Can
yeah.
you describe the current potential, I should say, the current and potential uses you see of Gen AI in a organization like Target?
I'll start with AI and I'll quickly get to Gen AI because I know that's where a lot of the interest is. But we've been developing our own AI-based models for over a decade, and they play a very prominent role across all of our operations. We've got an exceptional science team that has helped take algorithms and put them to work against our massive corpus of data in ways that have driven a tremendous amount of business value. So when you think about things from how we create a more personal offer through the new Target Circle 360 program, really using traditional AI to make sure we're serving up the most relevant and important offers or deals to our guests. Similar with our media business, Roundel, thinking about how do we optimize that media so that the investors are getting the best return on that, but also we're driving relevance for the consumer through the media work that we do. The AI is deployed across all facets. And so as generative AI really kind of came to the forefront late in 2022, it was an exciting advancement in that generative AI allowed us to create an even more conversation or human-like interface. And that human technology interface, as I noted earlier, is something that I'm keenly interested in. And so it's been a nice step forward. But the reason I think it was important to get grounded in the work that we've done prior to that is we invested heavily in building a data foundation and a reliable architecture for our retail platform, that is critical in all of our operations. The ability to then take the advancements in generative AI and quickly put them into experiments, in use cases, and now in production in a couple of scenarios that we're actually scaling was all enabled in part because we had put so much work into the data foundation, the data platform. Because the biggest, the biggest ingredient for AI, of course, is the data itself. And then you get these great scientists who look at the different ways to leverage the algorithms to put it to work. But generative AI we're in the very early stages, in my opinion. It has so much potential to continue to advance the way people and machines interact and interface and create a better experience for all. And so we see potential to empower our team member like we're doing with our store companion, which we will have rolled out across the chain in August. We've got a lot of work happening on our digital surfaces, from enhancing product detail pages to creating a more intuitive search that goes beyond a basic index search and really brings a little bit more of a conversational element to it, making that experience even richer for the guest to get right at what they want, and maybe even throwing in some suggestions and the ability to chat if they want to. So a lot of things that this technology has unlocked in the early stages, and so much more potential. And so I'm thankful that we've got an architecture and a data foundation that allows us to really put it to work for us. I'm also keenly aware that it is young. It is maybe not quite nascent anymore, but it's still pretty late in its maturity. But we're really excited about what lies ahead in terms of how this can help continue to build on our brand promise and do even more for Target and for our guests.
Yeah, some really interesting insights there, and especially the importance of the foundational aspects that you noted. That in order to truly take advantage of the latest innovations, having the appropriate hygiene and governance and security, presumably all in place, those are the necessary ingredients to take full advantage. And I really appreciate you articulating that.
Absolutely. We see generative AI as a strategic accelerator for our business. And so, like everything else, it ladders up under our strategic priorities to ensure we're putting it to work for the things that we think are most important for our business. And so there's always a healthy tension between the desire to experiment, which we democratize as much as we can, and also making sure that we're being highly responsible. So that healthy tension exists because we've been doing AI for a long time, because we have policies and practices and oversight to ensure that we're responsible, we're ethical, and that allows us that is actually quite liberating to say experiment, because we know that we've got the controls in place to ensure that we are going to only put things forward that have passed through the right level of oversight to ensure that we're honoring our commitment to all of our stakeholders, starting with our with our team, with our guests, and certainly with our investors. So yeah, a lot to build on from where we've been, and that's been really fun to be able to put that to work in the new chapter of generative AI.
Very interesting. Well, we spoke
Yeah,
a bit about your background and some of the diverse array of experiences you've had in finance and merchandising, in addition to many different experiences across digital and technology within
yeah,
Target. I wanted to actually go a little bit further back into your background. I know a seminal influence for you, as a leader, but also as a technologist, was your time in the Navy. And I
yeah.
wonder if you could describe that and the role it played in sort of providing you some guidance in the direction you eventually took.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, I've always been a curious person, take things apart, put them back together, and sometimes I had leftover parts. That's not a good thing, but that's how you learn, right? So I spent some time in the Navy when early in my career, and my assignment was really working on the maintenance of a number of the computer systems on board the ship that I was attached to. And I'll put in a quick plug. So if any of you, any of your podcast followers have seen the Top Gun Maverick, there's a quick cameo from the USS Leyte Gulf, about a 3 or 4 second cameo of that ship in Top Gun Maverick, which is a ship that I lived on for 4 years and 8 months. I,
Wow.
I was surprised when I saw it. I didn't know that was in there, but I was part of that vessel for a number of years. And it was on that we were on a deployment. So we were out to sea for 6, 7 months. And sometimes when you're on the mid watch, which is the shift that goes over the midnight hour, can be pretty boring. Boring is generally good when you're in the military. Pretty boring. And I'm an avid reader and an avid learner. And so I had picked up a copy of a book called A Book on C, ABC, but a book on C. So C, the programming language. And because my job was to do maintenance on these computer systems, some of them which we're running Sun OS, so precursor to what is now mainstream Linux today. I had access to the shell, and so I started reading this book on C, and I started writing Hello World, and I was like, well, this is fun, and so I just taught myself how to write C programs in that environment because I had time. And so, but I quickly realized I love this. I love technology. I love the ability to take something that uses both sides of my brain, the analytical, the creative, put it to work. I can write text and it can render something that is my set of instructions actually can do things that is a compilation of set instructions. I just immediately realized that this is the path that I want to pursue. And so I felt so lucky to have identified that early on, and when I eventually exited the Navy and went into private sector, I immediately pursued a path as a developer. That's what we used to call it, but a software engineer, a coder, a developer, and have just continued through a variety of technology roles. And professionally, I identify as a technologist. I'm very proud of the other experiences I've had, but I identify as a technologist professionally, and I absolutely love it.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you for your service, Brett, as
Yeah,
well. Really
thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you for the description. Well, as you just noted, you're an avid reader and learner. It's also clearly a cultural touchstone for the team, more generally speaking. Is
Yeah.
there anything you've recently read, listened to, or watched that you would recommend to others?
I read and listen to anything I can get my hands on. I would say, and certainly AI is a through line. So um, I don't have a this is the thing because what I love about the pace of change and what I love about the environment where there is no barriers to people sharing information. Is that I get to look at a range of points of view on any particular topic, from the skeptic to the dystopian views of everything, and all of that helps me form my own kind of views. And so AI is certainly a through line. But as I mentioned, I'm really curious about the relationship between humans and technology and the advancements. Again, thinking from back office to automation to creating more experiences today, but we're still creating user interfaces, and I think that we're going to continue to just see rapid evolution of that. I think the today's large language models have, if they haven't consumed all, they have supposed to consumed all of the text available in the world, and so they're hungry for more. And so I think the continued availability of new sources of data and information from sensors, from wearables, and things like that are going to continue to advance the intelligence that comes along with these systems. And so I think really looking at that interface and how it will evolve, and thinking about what good can come from that is really intriguing. And so there's a lot of different futurists, if you will, people that do that or do strategic planning capabilities, who I like to listen to or read their stuff. But I really like to follow kind of what's happening in the rapid expansion of that and what that might mean. And I'll give you just probably one of my favorite sources is my daughter. So my daughter's a biologist. And so we like to trade, thoughts from, I sit in, enterprise technology, experiences in the work that I do. She works for a small research company as a biologist, and the advancements in biology and the advancements in technology are really, interesting. But it's actually the intersection of them that is even more interesting, and it's very, very, real, and there's so much potential about what that could do when used for good. And so that's a real fun conversation that she and I explore pretty often. And it is just a conversation. It's really about kind of learning from each other and crowdsourcing insights and input from all over the world and from all types of sources is how I like to go about it.
I suppose, especially in this time where there's such a vast pace of change and so many potential trends to think about and leverage, having a broad diet, and in addition to, and I love this example of your daughter of developing analogies from adjacent spaces
Yeah.
to your own, become that much more important as well. Thank you for sharing that perspective, Brett. And I want to
Yeah.
thank you more generally for a terrific conversation. It's exciting to hear more about what you and your team are focused on the culture of innovation that you have fostered, the many different ways in which you are impacting both the experience of your guests as well as the experiences of your customers. It's been a really terrific conversation. I appreciate it.
Peter, I appreciate the time. I look forward to maybe catching up again down the road and sharing some more of our learnings for sure. And hopefully most of those learnings will be successes. So thank you for your time today. They'll really appreciate it, Peter. Thank you.
I'll look forward to that, Brett. Thanks.